So let's talk about Mark Young for a little bit. We're talking about different tunings and stuff. And I came in here to mess with the bass drum heads. I do not like the sound we have right now. I haven't liked it for a long time. I've already got this one off. I've got the microphone in there. Now we have a microphone mount that goes in there, but I wanted to position this a little bit different. I'm gonna pull all that out. I'm gonna try different heads on the other side. It's a process. I do not like the bass drum sound right now. It might just be my own personal opinion. So we were talking about tuning. So I first mentioned my snare. I seem to be on the more high side out of all the people playing drums on the internet. It seems like I like the higher tuning more than other people do. They all seem to like the lower tuning. But what I'm about to say about the toms and the snare is going to not make sense at first. So I run Evans EC2s on top. Most people will run a 2-ply on top and a single ply on the bottom. That depends on what type of music you're playing, what type of room you're playing in. I'm in this room, I'm trying to make this room dead. I'm simply using microphones. We have a room mic, on the other side of the room. I don't even mind hydraulic heads. When you're in a room trying to project, I think that's kind of stupid. If you're in a live setting, I think you should still use the microphones to your advantage, because either way, even if you're playing an acoustic kit on stage, you don't want any stage volume. You should be in some sort of cage, at least a shield, not just the cymbal shields, the full shield. You want your stage volume to be as zero as possible. No amps on the stage, all that stuff. You go to a local club, they should be behind the stage or facing backwards with the microphone in front of them. Everything should be in ear. The house is the most important sound you want. That's for the people. So you want to use the microphones to your advantage. So it doesn't matter about projecting into the room. I hate when people say that. I think that's dumb. But that's my opinion. I like microphones, and there's a huge advantage to this. We used to run hydraulic heads on the tops on the Tama Rockstar that we used to have. I'm running top and bottom EC2s 2-ply because I also tune my toms what's called unison. The top and the bottom are tuned the same. And it gives this resonance. It's not a boing, it's an actual resonant reverberating inside the drum. And it's based off of the drum size and the wood used. So when I'm tuning drums, I do the bottom first. And I'm hitting the head, and I'm tuning it, I'm hitting the head. And you get to this point, I wish I could video this next time I do it. It's a hassle to always do videos for every little thing when I just want to get stuff done. I'm tuning drums, I just want to tune them, get it done. You start hitting it, and you start tuning the lugs, you're tuning them up, and all of a sudden you'll hear these weird sounds. And what's happening is it's almost matching the frequency of the wood. That's how I explain it. I'm probably not explaining it correctly. But when you get to that point, that's where you want to stop. You want this to resonate with that, whatever that wood is, because all drums are different. The sizes and the woods are all different. And then I do the same thing to the top. And then what I do is I'll take the drum dial and stick it on there just to see where it's at and maybe fine tune it a little bit. But usually when I do that by ear, it's good to go. You can play it that way. I'm very picky, and I like the drum dial to just get those little fine things. And then of course, as you play, I'll sit here and retune them every once in a while. I do the same thing to all the drums. The snare is the only one different. The bottom is just super cranked. It is just super, super cranked. So it's not going to go with the resonant of the wood. It's way too high. It's above that point. And so is the top. The top is also way above that point. It's really high. But there's a lot of magic going on in the microphones. And I'm going to be doing a video soon of how to do a multi-cam drum cover and how I use the software and what settings and what I'm doing, because the snare itself has a top microphone right here, and it has one underneath to pick up the other head. And you can mix and match however you want, volume-wise, but there's a lot of effects and compression and stuff going on all of these microphones. That being said, I'm still a firm believer, it's an old school thing, if you're sitting here and it sounds good from here, then the microphones will also sound good. You want these to sound good. You don't want to try and fix problems with the microphone. That's not what you're doing. You want this to sound good, and you know if this is sounding good, whether you're on a stage or in a studio, it's tuned correctly, you're just going to slap the mics on, you know, sound man's going to be like, this is great, you don't need to retune everything. You know, if there's like a little ring or something here and there, because microphones are more sensitive, then you might have to fix that stuff. But if your drums are normally tuned correctly, you don't have any ringing, no boinging, it's fine. But I wanted to explain a couple of those things because I was talking with Mark about that, and I do things different than everybody else. I do old school things. I do weird, unconventional ways of doing things. I would love to learn how to tune the toms. There's something like called a fourth, and then there's another one called a third or like a fifth. I would love to learn that if somebody can explain that to me. Nobody has been able to actually explain to me how can I do that. I've seen other people on the internet doing it, but I don't know how could I do it. Because it seems like if I did a fifth, I think that would be a better tuning for these particular drums. So we were talking about this particular floor tom because Mark was saying he likes to tune his stuff low. I totally understand that because I like the same thing. I want the low tuning because of the music I'm playing. The type of music I'm playing is very, you know, boomy. It's heavy metal. It's rock and roll. And what you're trying to do is make your toms sound deeper than they really are. Now, I actually have deep toms. They're not symmetrical, but they are pretty deep. This is a 13, I think this is 11. That's pretty good. It's not bad. I'd rather have, you know, 12 by 12, 13 by 13. I like symmetrical. It's like an old school thing to make them sound really cool and boomy. But, you know, that's where the different heads come in. So hydraulic heads on this would actually be good. I didn't want to spend the money. I went with the EC2s for now. When these wear out, maybe I'll try some hydraulics. But what I was saying is, you know, when you're tuning the drum and you want it to sound lower, you don't necessarily want your head loose. You don't necessarily want to tune it low. You still have to listen to what the drum is doing. You're actually at the mercy of the drum. You can't just tune your thing low and then take the microphone and like try and switch it up in the software. But what I was telling him was tightness wise, not note wise. It's hard to explain. Tightness wise, this drum, this top head is tighter than these. Like if I was to take the drum dial and stick it on here and then stick it on here, this is a lot tighter. But that doesn't mean the note's higher, but that's how I get that big boomy sound out of this floor tom. You wouldn't think that. You would actually think the opposite. Let me tune it low. The note's too high. The note's too high. Let me tune it low. I want a more... It's actually the opposite. You gotta listen to the wood and the size of the drum. You have to tune it to the drum. And then you can mess with it up or down a little bit from there, but not a lot. So it's a weird little thing. You're not trying to like tune this as low as you can to make it sound low. That's not gonna work. If you're gonna do that, man, just go get hydraulic heads, shove them on there, you barely tighten them, and that'll probably work. I don't know about bottom heads, maybe single ply. You know, you got the hydraulics on top. I don't know. I'd have to play around with that, and it costs too much to keep buying heads and just to play around with. But I came in here to do this video because that's what we were talking about. I was telling him that this is a lot tighter. That's lug-wise. This is it seems like you'd want the opposite, but that's not how the drums work. And then Mark was also talking about, you know, because he plays an acoustic kit. I love the acoustic kit. There's advantages and disadvantages to electronic kits and acoustic kits. The main reason about the acoustic kit, the disadvantage, is the noise level. You know, you got to know your neighbors, or you got to live in a place where you can do that, or you need a soundproof room. the noise level from this is a lot higher than an electronic drum set. The other drawback to these is cost. These drums, this is an old 80s Pearl Export. They actually sound really good. These are made for rock and roll. The drums themselves were like 250 bucks, maybe 300, I can't remember. It's been a very long time. And I'm playing on Andrew's snare. This drum set did come with a snare with it, but Andrew bought this snare separate. But let's just say I bought that ready to play for that much. It came with Sabian B8s. B8s, you sell them with the drums. You know when you're buying a drum set, it's coming with B8s, you shove them in the closet. So when you go to sell your drum set, you put those back on there. Oh, it's complete. B8s are horrible. Any Sabians are horrible. But anyway, once you start getting into cymbals, the A's, this is crazy, man. This A, and the hi-hats, these are A's, these are new beats. These are a pack. You look up this pack online, it's $799. $799 just for that. That's not even a ride. This is the ride. I mean, you could probably use this as a ride, just ride on the crash. This is an 18 crash, a 16 crash, and the hi-hats are 14s. $799. But look, then we got the 8-inch splash, the 10-inch splash, the 16A custom, the pitch black 22, whatever this China is. This Zildjian China, which is a 16, not an 18. We have a whole mess more in here. We have Andrew's ride in here. It's some type of dry. It's a Zildjian. It's going to be dark in here. I don't have a light. We got a whole stack. There's a whole stack leaning against the wall right there. And then we got this little effects symbol right here. It's like we've got so much stuff. It costs a fortune. When you add this up piece by piece, it's a small fortune. Then the microphones. Now this is a Sennheiser pack. This is I call it an imitation 57. They're piles. They're really good. The piles compared to a real 57, frequency response is way better. But if you ever buy these, do not gig with them. Don't move these. They're plastic. If you drop it or something, these will break. A real 57, this is all made out of metal, are really strong, but the frequency response isn't as good. You really got to do a lot of EQing on them. But we have all these microphones. There's one on every single drum. There's one in there, there's one here, there's one on the bottom of here. And then we got the two up top. It's an XY pair. Now you'll notice, if you look at my old videos, I used to have the XY pair behind. Now they're in front. But you got the XY pair. Then we got the room mic. This is the room mic over here. This is Audio-Technica. And this is the one I usually talk on when I'm doing Zoom and stuff. That's the microphone I use. But we're using that as a room mic. And it's like, okay, well that's great. I don't even know how much all that stuff costs. But then how do I hook up the microphones to the computer? Well, dang, I need an I/O box. This is $399. Now, they're cheaper now. These are a little older. They're cheaper now. This was $400 for this one box. Look, we're using two. We're using two boxes. That's $800. Even if you say $700, heck, even $500. That's a lot of money. Okay, but then what else? All the cables that you got to use to hook all this stuff up. And then with the drums, the stands, all the cymbal stands, all the little clamps we have to use. And then you got to get like the drum dial. You don't have to have that. It's a drum tuner. I forget how much those are. They're cheaper now. Then you need keys. What the heck is a key? Is it unlock the drums? It's a drum key. It's a tuning key. You tune the drums with the keys. Now these are cheap, but then you have consumables. You know, on a guitar you got strings, sticks, and these get chewed up from the cymbals. They get all beat up from hitting the cymbals, especially the hi-hats. It's like, and then of course, I bought those separate. You don't have to buy those. Most people have a chain drive. These are direct drive pedals. I love these. I don't know how to do heel toe on these, But the direct drive is really nice because you don't have to have the chain as tight as you would on like a spring type of pedal. These are really nice. They're nice and fluid. That's why I like these. But it's like, people don't understand like the cost. I know this started out as like I was making this for Mark as like a tuning room. I figured since I'm in here, I'll talk about that stuff. The seat, I mean, just the chair alone. All these little things that people don't even think about. They just go, oh, drum set. And then you go to sell it. You can't get your money back. I could probably put this whole entire thing online for like $1,000 and people are going to talk you down. It's like, I got $1,000 just in a couple cymbals, you know? So it's really, you don't get your money back. It's impossible to get your money back. You'd have to sell this like piece by piece by piece. But I just wanted to cut, since I was in here messing around with tuning and stuff already, I figured I would talk about that because I was talking to Mark about that. And this is all the garbage you guys don't see on camera. I got a Jackery down here. This is a Jackery because I don't have enough stuff to plug into the wall. There's an outlet right here behind this curtain. And I don't have enough stuff to run this camera into the wall. So when I'm making a video, it plugs into the Jackery. Then we got this mic. This is my homemade weight. There's water bottles in here with water. It's a microphone weight to hold this back so it doesn't fall down. This is also a microphone weight. I need to buy some weights. They actually make microphone stand weights. That's holding this, the XY pair, because that's actually, it's not heavy, but it's so far out it'll fall forward and it shakes, and I'd like to mount a camera on there at some point maybe. I had a camera on there at one point behind me when this was in the back, but then you guys don't see all this garbage over here when I'm making a video. And usually I have this empty. I'm playing around with different stuff. I've moved every single microphone around. I'm just playing with different things, but that's another thing. All the mic stands you gotta buy. You know, the microphones don't come with those things. You might buy the microphones. They don't even come with cables half the time. It's just a microphone pack, like a drum pack. You know, the clips usually come with them, these little clips right here. Those usually come with them with like, these clamps are all separate, all these stands. It's a lot of stuff. You know, all these little mic stands. This is the microphone under the snare. It has to be on a stand. You know, it doesn't clamp onto that one. The top one clips onto the drum. I love clipping them on there. And then you got to buy like, there's a quick release. I don't mind that. You know, you got to buy all these little felt pads, you know, for your cymbals, or they get ruined. And a lot of people really don't know what goes into a drum set to get this into the computer and onto YouTube. And that doesn't even include all the cameras, all the software, all the time. That doesn't include all that, which is fine. You know, and the headphones, there's so much that goes into playing the drums. Now, if you're a beginner, you don't have to buy, you know, expensive cymbals like these, but it is cheaper to buy a pack. You buy them together. You don't buy them separate unless you're getting them used, you know, one at a time for really cheap. But if you can get away with, if you're a beginner, get a 5-piece kit. This is a 5-piece set. And then you can get a pair of hi-hats, at least one crash and one ride. You're good to go to play. You can play anything you want. 2 crashes is better. Now, I like a lot more crashes, you know, and I like the chinas for certain songs and the splashes for certain songs. But people don't understand, you know, even if you bought like a beginner kit, it's going to have like garbage single plies on top and stuff. Sooner or later, you'll have to change it. But the money, just the toms are $100. The top and bottom heads, there's 2, 4, 6. That was $100 for just those heads. That's nothing else. So I just wanted to come up here and explain a few things just because we were talking about that, and I don't think people understand what goes into it and money-wise. So one thing I forgot to mention was when I was talking about the electronic kit versus the acoustic kit, the good part about playing an acoustic kit, you can, it's like you're a real rock star. You know, you're hitting real cymbals, not rubber ones. You know, it's like you're here, you hear the boom, boom, you can hear it. Now an electronic kit, you got the headphones, you can hear it, but outside of that, all you hear is the pop, 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 which is great. The advantage to the electronic kit, the noise level is almost non-existent. That depends, you know, if you're upstairs, your foot's hitting the floor. Downstairs, people are going to hear it. You're going to hear the pad, you know, you're going to hear that, which is not that loud, especially compared to acoustic kit. You could probably download patches to make it sound like this person's drum set, this person's drum set. So when you're playing a drum cover, you could probably make it sound exactly like the drum set in those songs. And if not, you can at least, each drum has individual tweaking things that you can make it yourself anyway. The disadvantage of playing an electronic kit is the cymbals. If you have the good kind where you can choke them, the round kind, and then you can actually choke them, they have like 3 zones. So you can have a crash, and then you can also have like a bell, and then you can choke them. The bad thing is with those, you can just hit them wherever, and it kind of makes the sound you want, you know, and then you can hit the bell. You can program however you want. That's an advantage. The disadvantage is when you do that, and then you come sit down at an acoustic kit, you cannot hit these the same way. On an electronic kit, you can almost just smack the sides and stuff. You cannot do that with these. You will damage your cymbals and your sticks. You cannot just come up here and start whacking stuff like this. It doesn't work. You're gonna hurt stuff. I mean, look, I broke this. There's my repair. There was 2 cracks in there that I did, which means I'm not hitting them correctly, or I wasn't. So it's like you can't just come and hit them, you know. That's the only disadvantage to that is if you go to switch, you have to relearn how to hit these, and you have to learn the differences, you know. The other disadvantage to the acoustic kit is you have to tune the stupid thing all the time, like a guitar. So once you think about all the money that is spent on an acoustic kit like this, the microphones on, it's a huge advantage to just go buy an electronic kit with the mesh head. So it feels, you know, it's got the bounce. You're not just hitting the rubber things. In the electronic kit world, there's all kinds of ranges from super cheap to super expensive. I mean, it's the same with acoustic kits, you know, but there's a huge advantage to that. Do you want to spend thousands of dollars like we have on something like this, or you take that same money, thousands of dollars to get you a super top of the line electronic drum set, you know, the top of the line brain, the module. You can do that type of stuff. You can take that money and go do that if that's what you want to do. Or, you know, save your money, go buy a cheaper electronic kit. You're not spending all this money. Just to get the drums into the computer, that costs a fortune because you need the microphones and the boxes and all that stuff. It's not just the drums. So that's the hugest advantage to electronic drums, I think, is cost. Yes, they have high-end ones, you know, $5 grand, 10 grand. They go way up in price. But what you're going to get dollar for dollar versus an acoustic kit is a huge difference. It makes more monetary sense to do that in your budget. I like playing the acoustic kit, you know. I would love an electronic kit because I usually come up here at like 2 in the morning. That's when I come up here and mess around. I don't play, but that's when I'm setting up cameras and playing with microphones. I'm playing with mixes, you know, tuning because I can hit them lightly. You know, do little things in here that I want to get done in the day, but I don't. But I sleep in the day. So I come in here at night and I do all that stuff. I come up here in the day and that's when I get to play. But at night when I come home, you know, when you come home from work, sometimes you're just like wide open, you're wired, you need to settle down, you know. I come home, I'm wired. It's like I would just like to sit down and start wailing on these things. So I would love an electronic kit just to do that with, to, you know, get some practice in, practice my next cover on this set or something. There's a lot that goes into this that people don't realize. I just want to say some of that stuff just because we were talking about that online. And I know this video is going to be a lot longer than I planned it on being, like it always is, but I hope it helps somebody somewhere.